What do you think is the number one tech aspect that's going to change the way everyone listening does what they do in the next 5 years?
It's been in the news so much, but quite frankly, I don't think people take it as seriously as they should, and that is AI. And AI has, since its introduction into the marketplace, it's just made huge leaps and bounds. But what most people don't realize is it's been in development, in serious development, for 40 years. Billions of people are using it a day. It gets really sophisticated really fast across cultures, and it is going to radically change our landscape in the next 5 years. A lot of jobs that are done today simply aren't going to exist in 5 years.
Yeah, that's so. What makes you happiest about this, and then what makes you saddest, and what scares you the most?
So the happy thing to me is it's called artificial intelligence, and I really wish that they would rename it to assistive intelligence. I use it as an assistant, and it's an assistant that I have to train, I have to correct, I have to review what the assistant gives me. And as long as you interact with this artificial intelligence platform, whichever one you want to talk about, in that capacity, it makes me very happy because it lets me get easily 200 to 300% more done a day than I do without it. Status is that I do believe, even though I'm telling you where it's going to go in 5 years or so, I think it's oversold today. But you're starting to see AI in everything. And AI certainly has its place. It has its place in a lot of devices. Some of the things that we might talk about, like lawnmowers, that were introduced at CES this year. You roll the lawnmower out, it gets the weather forecast, and it might say, you know what, I'm going to put off mowing the lawn until 3 o'clock because it's supposed to rain.
That sounds like I used to do, but I just put it off for a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't go back out to do it.
Yeah, right.
and you might say, hey, there's HOA rules that only allow us to mow, between 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the morning, and we can't do it on Sundays. That's off limits. So it could ask you some questions like that, and it could learn. And then, by the way, if it happens to be mowing your lawn for you and it's geo-fenced, because it will do that, and it finds something peculiar in your yard that you weren't expecting, well, not only will it document it, it'll mow around it, and, if it could do something to take care of the situation, it will, but otherwise, at least it notifies you there's a problem. Now, for remote homeowners, this is great, because after it mows your lawn, it goes back and parks in the recharging station, and it's ready to go again.
Hey, all right, so what is the scariest thing to you about AI going forward?
The scariest thing to me about AI is when it gets into certain applications that it shouldn't be in, and that there's nobody checking it or verifying it. For people that don't recognize that it's not perfect, it gets you in a lot of trouble. In fact, there's been attorneys, because quite frankly, AI today is great for law, but there's been attorneys that have used it in brief, and it's made up information that's just not correct.
Oof.
And it puts it in a brief, and let me tell you, a judge is not very happy when that happens.
What do you think is going to be in the, let's say in 2 years from now, what from CES is going to be almost a household item, do you think?
Smart city technology integrating with smart cars. We're seeing road signs that automatically update based on road conditions, accidents, and things like that. They start to detect backups, and they reroute traffic automatically. But now with smart cars, you're getting those messages because it knows your route. In fact, I've got a 2026 model now, and I don't even have to tell it when I'm heading home. It knows. It updates the route if there's any problems, and it gives me my ETA. So now when my wife calls and says, when are you going to be home? I could say, 13 minutes. But we are going to see traffic lights get smaller or be removed overall. And that's where we're going to start to see technology migrated into vehicles that are predictive as cars enter intersections. They know what cars are coming what direction, and literally they're going to thread those cars together. And so if you happen to think about traffic moving without having to stop, it changes fuel mileage issues, pollution, gets you from your point A to point B more quickly. But I'll tell you what, first time we do that,
Woo!
I don't know how I'm going to feel about that one.
Yeah, I'm not going to look.
We are going to see driver-based cars go away. And a lot of people don't believe that, but it's the insurance companies that are pushing it. They are 100 times better at driving and having fewer accidents than the best human that they could compare to. Now, you tell me what that does to insurance companies and everything else. It will be here.
But to me, insurance companies then should charge 100 times less, but they won't.
Exactly.
Because I don't know why they're mouthing off, because they make a fortune charging people all sorts of rates. When like if my neighbor has a wreck, I get charged more. That kind of thing.
That's exactly right.
So to me, they better be careful what they wish for. They're going to do that FAFO kind of stuff, and they're going to be out of business when no one's having any wrecks.
In addition to that, what we're going to start to see is shared vehicle services, where when you want to go somewhere, it shows up and takes you there, and then it drops you off and goes and gets somebody else. So you won't have to really wait. But that's not that far down the road either.
It's almost, it sounds cool and it's great for technology in the future and all that, but I kind of like the freedom of doing what I want to do whenever I want to do it. I think we're going to have to overcome that with more of a automated and structured society going forward, it looks like.
Well, the technologists have been, this is one of the issues that technologists and psychologists have been analyzing. But yeah, there are shifts like that are going to occur. But right now, the thinking is it's going to open you up to some things that you've always wanted to do, but you didn't have the time to do.
Yeah, you're right.
And so, like you said, you might want to cruise around and listen to tunes. Well, now maybe you want to cruise around and just look at the sunset driving down the beach or going through the mountains or in the countryside, where you're not driving and you don't have to pay attention to the road. Guess what? Now you could have the bottle of wine open, right? Because there's no more open container restrictions. But they've been printing food, 3D printed food, for a while now. And a lot of critics are saying, you know what? They've gotten to the point that you really can't tell the difference. So now they're starting to print skin, for example. So if you've got a bad burn or something, you need a skin graft, no problem. Blood vessel from your own DNA technology. They are working on right now, and they think they're less than a few years away from heart and kidney. Yeah, that is probably, to me, one of the most exciting things that really has been progressing well and was a big hit at CES this year.
Longevity will go up tremendously if you just print a new heart out instead of getting a pacemaker or anything like that. Just put a new one in. That's yours, and it won't be rejected because your body will think it's the same one. All right, let's talk about the robotics real quick. What are you thinking there?
So we are starting to see humanoid robotics, and the real progress has come out of Japan. Japan has a major healthcare issue with older folks. And one of the things that they found out pretty quickly was the robots did a much better job with the care than the humans did, because the patient can be as grouchy, as insulting, or anything else as they wanted to be, and the robot doesn't have an emotional response, right?
I hear you.
Yeah.
But what they found was, in order to get the human to engage with the robot, they had to put a face on the robot. And the more human-like they made the face, the more humans engaged with it. Well, it got to the point, even in its infancy, with faces that sort of looked human, they weren't great, that the healthcare patients wanted the robots instead of the humans. And you've got robots that are lifting 600, 1,000 pounds, moving it around in a warehouse type setting. Move over to the next booth, and they've got an exoskeleton that you could strap on for people that are quadriplegic or paraplegic that does the brain or eye connection to be assistive technology and allow you to move around without a wheelchair or anything like that.
Hollywood is ahead of science, or science is ahead of Hollywood. It's like that kind of thing.
Science follows Hollywood sometimes. But by the way, those things were all available and demonstrated at the ES this year. So
what's the price on something like if you wanted one of those robots to like lift weight, like move stuff for you and work in a warehouse, I guess? Like $30,000?
Well, it really varies. They start at the low end, about to $10,000 for the home assistive robots that do your house cleaning and can do some cooking and things like that. So low end there, but they'll go up to well over $100,000 depending on what you want. And the sex technology at CES has actually become about 20% of the CES floor these days.
They say sex sells, man. I'm telling you.
You know,
I'd like a Emeril Lagasse chef robot, and he'd like say "bam" and then bring my food to me. You know, like remember,
right?
Or Chef Ramsay one that's cussing in the kitchen and bringing you good food. Beef Wellington.
Program it any way you want to.
It's just amazing, man. You know, it's also worrisome at the same time because a lot of careers are in jeopardy now when these robots can do such a great job. And all you do is, I guess, how long do you have to plug them in, or how long does like one of these robots go without a charge, and how long does it take to charge them?
Coach Pete, oh man, I'm shaking my head now. No, they decide when they need to be charged based on what they see the workload to be, and they take the break, if you will, and go charge themselves.
Wow, okay.
Do they need to do a fast charge, or can they shut down for the night because you're not going to need them for the next 4 to 6 to 12 hours?
So if they charge too fast, does it become a smoking break?
Smoking break.
It's well good. That's a good one. I like that.
Well, man, we're going down all sorts of rabbit holes here with all this stuff. It's amazing. It really is amazing. We're in a amazing time of basically history when you think about it. It's, I mean, gosh, they'll talk about this like they did the Roman ages 3,000 years from now, I think, if we're still around.
I agree. And some of us may be.
I can't imagine trying to think, we talk in here, really, we talk short term, maybe 5 to 10 years.
Right.
I can't imagine where this is in 25 to 30 years. I really can't. It's progressing faster than the human imagination can really keep up with it.
Back in the day, a robot would just like on Lost in Space, warning, Mr., that kind of thing. But now the robots are more agile than we are. Crazy.
Yeah, and by the way, they've improved that face technology like we were talking about with recognizing emotions, being able to have more facial emotions with the eyes, the mouth, everything. And, they've gotten to the point where if you just do a quick glance and passing, you won't know that it's a robot. They're that good.
But remember, there was a movie probably about 25 or 30 years ago, Michael Keaton. It was Duplicity or something, where he invented like 5 or 6 robots that looked just like him. So basically, he just sat home and he sent them out to work and do all the hard stuff, and he took all the credit, made all the money. And then the robots started getting mad at him, though. They started getting smart on him. You remember that movie?
Ganging up on him. Yep.
What if we could just invent a bunch of Coach Pete's and send them out all over the place?
I only have one question.
Yes,
Is the world ready for that?